How risky is it that you could lose the election?
Well, it is undeniable that it is something that everyone is aware of what is happening there. I speak publicly all the time about the fact that there are so many tragic stories coming from Gaza, and of course, the first in this phase of everything that has happened, the first most tragic story is October 7th, and what happened that day, and then what has happened since.
Before I play any more of this clip, I want to acknowledge a few things. The first is that you can understand that Kamala Harris is better than Donald Trump while also being able to criticize what she does, especially when you think she's unethical. Or I'm going to say it a different way. Recognizing that VP Kamala Harris is better than former President Trump does not make her immune from criticism or from critiques. With that being said, it is unethical and empirically false to say that 2023, October 7th, when all this started, especially when we have headlines from the October 6th, the day before, that said that 2023 was the deadliest year for Palestinian children, says human rights groups. This means that what she is saying is false. 2023 was already seeing record high numbers happening to children before October 7th, and this is what Israel was doing. I'm going to let this clip finish, but this is very important context that's pointing out from the jump.
October 7th, and what happened that day, and then what has happened since. And I think what's critically important as we look at this moment is, one, acknowledging the tragedy of what has happened in Gaza in terms of the extraordinary number of innocent Palestinians who have been killed, and taking that seriously and speaking truth about that. In addition, of course, to what I said about what happened on October 7 in terms of 1,200 innocent Israelis being slaughtered, women being horribly raped. And then fast forwarding to today with the killing of Sinwar, this creates an opening that I believe we must take full advantage of to dedicate ourselves to ending this war and bringing the hostages home.
But it's not working so far.
You know what? Listen, as it relates to the issues in the Middle East and in particular in that region, it has never been easy. But that doesn't mean we give up, okay? It is always going to be difficult. It does not mean we give up. We can't give up.
Now, there's a lot to unpackage in that video, but let's start with this hostage rhetoric. I understand her as saying, insofar that Israel has not returned their hostages, they are able to do what they want to do until they get their hostages. But here's the thing. The longest running newspaper in Israel just confirmed that Netanyahu has actively blocked every hostage deal since October 7th. Meanwhile, Netanyahu is openly planning to annex Gaza. We got the receipts right here. New evidence reveals that Netanyahu's relentless efforts to block hostage deal while literally talking about, hey, return all hostages. This article is published in Israel, and it's talking about the annexation of Israeli settlements in Gaza. Not only we had this right here, remember what Tim Walz said during this debate against J.D. Vance.
Let's keep in mind where this started. October 7th, Hamas terrorists massacred over 1,400 Israelis and took prisoners. Israel's ability to be able to defend itself is absolutely fundamental. Getting its hostages back, fundamental, and ending the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. But the expansion of Israel and its proxies is an absolute fundamental necessity for the United States to have the steady leadership there. You saw it experienced today, where along with our Israeli partners and our coalition, able to stop the incoming attack.
Notice how J.D. Vance said 1,400 and Kamala Harris is saying 1,200. Notice how when they talk about Palestinians, they talk about like they got hit by a hurricane or something like that, and not as if the people that they say have the right to defend themselves is not doing everything in the name of defending themselves. When they tell you about how many Israelis, 1,200 or 1,400, here's why it's hard to establish a death toll when it comes to the body count that's happening in Gaza. They all under the rubble still. We've been saying 40,000 now for a couple of months, so we know they ain't stopped attacking them. It's a conflict in the Palestinian numbers. They saying that the toll was over 40,000. This article right here is from August. 2024 is starting to look a lot like 1968, and that scares me. Do you remember what happened to Humphrey? An unpopular president finds his path to re-election unattainable. Forced out, he hands the reins over to his vice president, whose previous try at the party nomination ended in defeat. Lyndon B. Johnson stepped down because America was like, nah, we don't like how you're handling this war. We think you suck, just like we did with Biden. Then Harris stepped in, just like Humphreys did. In 1968, many historians believe that had Lyndon B. Johnson caved in to a lot of the calls that was happening about Vietnam earlier, Humphreys would have won. Instead, that man lost by 0.5% of the popular vote. 0.5%. I get the difference. Donald Trump wants to get the job done, and Kamala Harris is ready to capitulate into the humanity of Palestinians while saying Israel has the right to defend itself. There is a little difference. I would much rather fight for a ceasefire or fight for a weapons embargo against the Harris campaign than I would, the Trump campaign. But both of them tend to not give a damn about Palestinians. It's just which one of them gives lip service and the other one is like, hey, get it done tomorrow. Because she want to win. Polls show that in 3 swing states, Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Arizona, calling for an end to weapons Israel will help Kamala Harris win. As a matter of fact, to end this, I saw this amazing video that laid it out very smooth and plainly, and I'm just going to lay it out for y'all right here.
Madam Vice President, if you're watching, there's something I need to say to you. The polls aren't looking great for you right now. It's neck and neck in the swing states, and if you lose the election, Democrats are already getting ready to blame this or that minority community. Some are already pointing fingers at Muslim and Arab voters who aren't, of course, fans of yours right now because of Gaza. So please hear me out when I say 3 things to you about all of this. First, if you're going to blame a group of voters for a defeat next month, blame white people. It wasn't just white men, but white women who helped elect Trump last time around in 2016. In fact, no Democratic presidential nominee has won a majority of the white vote since LBJ. Not Bill Clinton, not Joe Biden, and you won't either. The truth is that Muslim and Arab voters and black men and Latinos, all of the different ethnic groups who we are constantly told are deserting the Democrats, will still end up voting for you over Trump at higher rates than white people, especially white men. So don't blame the Muslims or the Arabs or the non-white folks if you lose. Number 2, you really shouldn't blame any voters if you lose, because politicians like yourself need to take responsibility for earning their votes, our votes. You, like every other candidate for president, don't have the right to anyone's vote. You have to make the case. And number 3, Muslim and Arab voters would vote for you, like they did for Joe Biden last time round, if you gave them a good reason to, especially on Gaza, the issue that most Muslim voters have declared their priority, and that you and Biden have failed them on. And yet, again and again, you have not just not courted the Muslim American vote and the Arab American vote in a key swing state like Michigan, for example, you have actively spurned it. You could have met with the uncommitted movement, which you said you would do back in August, but you never have. Not once. Even though uncommitted represents 700,000 Democratic Party voters nationwide, including over 100,000 in Michigan, where, remember, Hillary Clinton lost to Trump by less than 12,000 votes. You could have had a Palestinian voice at the DNC speaking on stage, but you refused. Ruha Rahman, a Palestinian Muslim woman in a headscarf, in a hijab, an elected Democratic state lawmaker from the crucial swing state of Georgia, was ready to endorse you in prime time, but you didn't give her a chance. You could have said that as a prosecutor, when you're president, you'll enforce the law, both our own Leahy law and international humanitarian law, but you haven't, even though the polls consistently show a majority of Americans want conditions put on arms sales to Israel. You could have said, when asked on The View, that you would have done some things differently to Joe Biden over the last 4 years. But no, you said you would have done nothing at all differently. You could have mentioned Lebanese civilian casualties in your statement on the Israeli killing of the leader of Hezbollah, but you didn't say a word about civilian casualties. It's almost like you're trying to lose Michigan. It's almost like you're pushing people there into the arms of Jill Stein and the Green Party. Look, don't get me wrong, and don't shoot the messenger. I happen to think Trump is an existential danger to Muslims, Arabs, Palestinians, to American democracy, to our climate. I happen to think he'll be much worse on Gaza than you'll be, or Joe Biden has been, though the bar is so low. And I know that Netanyahu and Ben-Gvir want Trump, and not you, as president come January. But just saying Trump, Trump, Trump is not enough for most people. The reality is that most people, Muslims included, don't just want to vote against something. They want to vote for something. They want to vote for you if you can show them that you are different to Biden, that you are much better than Trump, not just by claiming to be working around the clock for a ceasefire, but showing you have an actual plan backed with actual US leverage to stop the killing, that you recognize Palestinian humanity, not just through words, but through deeds. So, Madam Vice President, if you lose Michigan on November the 5th and you lose the race, if the country wakes up to another nightmare Trump presidency, don't you or the Democrats dare blame the Muslims for that. No, you can blame yourself for not changing course, for not listening to advice, for not heeding the polls on this issue, for not even trying to use the power you undeniably have to stop a genocide. There's still time.